All right, today we're going to unpack one country's really ambitious bet on its own climate future. And we're going straight to the source, this document right here. It's Cambodia's official blueprint for tackling climate change, their third nationally determined contribution. So, what you're seeing here, this isn't just some dusty government report, okay? You got to think of it more like a formal promise from Cambodia to the entire world. It's a high-stakes blueprint, and it details exactly how they plan to fight for their climate future.
Okay, but a promise. What does that actually mean when you get down to it? Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to break this thing down piece by piece and figure out why this plan is such a big deal, not just for Cambodia, but honestly, for all of us.
First things first, let's set the stage. We need to understand the stakes here. I mean, to really get why this plan is so important for Cambodia, you have to see the unique spot they're in right now, a real climate crossroads. And this really gets to the heart of the problem. On one hand, you've got a country that contributes less than 1% to global greenhouse gas emissions. I mean, basically nothing. But on the other hand, they are right on the front lines, super vulnerable to these awful floods, droughts, stuff that threatens their people and their entire economy. So what do you do in a situation like that? Well, Cambodia's response is all laid out in this document we're looking at. It's called their Nationally Determined Contribution, or NDC for short. Think of it as their official roadmap for climate action, the one they hand in to the UN. Now, this chart from the report itself, it lays out three possible futures, and it's pretty stark. That top bar, that's business as usual. If they do nothing and emissions just keep climbing. The middle one is what Cambodia thinks it can pull off on its own. But look at that bottom bar. That's the real game changer. With help from the rest of the world, they could literally slash their projected emissions by more than half. And that brings us to the big headline number, a potential 55% cut in emissions by 2035. That's compared to just letting things ride. You have to understand, for a developing country, that is a huge and incredibly bold promise to make. Okay, so a big number is great, right? But how in the world do they plan to actually do it? Well, their strategy has two main parts. You can think of it as offense and defense. One part is about fighting back against emissions, and the other is about defending their country from the climate impacts that are already happening. So let's just make sure we're on the same page with these two key ideas. The fancy word for fighting back is mitigation. That's all the stuff you do to actually reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And the word for defending is adaptation. That's everything you do to cope with the climate change that's already knocking at the door. All right, so on the fight back side, mitigation, they're not messing around. The plan goes after their biggest sources of emissions with some really big moves. We're talking about a massive jump to 80% renewable energy, halving the rate of deforestation, rolling out more electric vehicles in cities, and completely rethinking how they manage their waste. And then on the defense side, adaptation. It's all about protecting their people. This means building roads and water systems that can withstand extreme weather, getting better at warning people about floods and storms, helping farmers use climate-smart techniques to protect the food supply, and really importantly, strengthening the safety nets for the most vulnerable people in the country. Okay, now this is where it gets really, really interesting, because that huge ambition we talked about, that 55% reduction, it comes with a major catch. And that brings us to, well, the $22.5 billion question. To get this, you have to understand a really key difference in the plan. They talk about unconditional stuff and conditional stuff. Unconditional is everything Cambodia says they'll do no matter what, using their own money and resources. But conditional, that's the bigger, more ambitious plan, and it's called conditional because it only happens if they get major financial and tech support from the rest of the world. And the scale of this whole thing is just immense. I mean, look at this. The total estimated price tag for this 10-year plan is a whopping $32.2 billion. This chart right here just lays the whole challenge out perfectly. That smaller blue slice, that's the unconditional part, about $9.5 billion that Cambodia can cover itself. But that big orange slice, that's the conditional part. That's the $22.5 billion gap that has to be filled by international support if they're going to unlock the full ambitious plan. And that is the catch. The biggest, most ambitious parts of this plan, the stuff that gets them to that incredible 55% reduction, it's all hanging in the balance. It is completely conditional on getting that funding and technology from the global community. So let's say this all works. Let's say this huge bet pays off. What does that future actually look like? Well, according to their own plan, it's about a whole lot more than just cutting emissions. A central idea that they hammer home again and again in this document is what's called a just transition. And the goal is right there in the quote, to build a new green economy that must leave no one behind. They're making it clear that the benefits have to be shared by everyone, paying special attention to women, young people, and indigenous communities.
And look, this isn't just some pie-in-the-sky wish list. The document actually lays out a pretty serious framework for making it all happen. They're setting up a government-wide working group, an online platform so anyone can track their progress, and they have real strategies for getting private companies involved too. And seeing this official seal here is a powerful reminder. This isn't just some proposal from a committee. No, this is a formal top-level commitment. This comes from the very highest levels of the Cambodian government.
So in the end, this whole plan really puts a critical global question into sharp focus, doesn't it? Cambodia has laid all its cards on the table. They've come forward with this incredibly ambitious, detailed plan. The big question now is who in the international community is going to step up and help them play the winning hand? And that really is the most important thing to take away from this whole document.